Okay, so I thought I'd do a first impressions or an early impressions on the iPhone 12, the iPhone 12 Pro, MagSafe tech, and just general thoughts about all of these devices. So let's just jump right into these boxes. These are a lot smaller than previous iPhone boxes. They're like half the size. And inside, for both of them, you get the phone itself, a USB-C to Lightning charging cable, a SIM tool, a single Apple sticker this time, and no charging brick. And I gotta say something about the lack of these charging bricks in basically all of Apple's iPhones this year. In my original video that I made, kind of like a reactionary video to Apple's iPhone 12 launch, I remember thinking like that I was moved by Apple's environmental stance, right? By removing these bricks, they're doing environmental good and the boxes are smaller. To put it bluntly though, I think I was wrong. I think I was caught up in the whole marketing of it because when I did my own research on this stuff and kind of dug into the actual environmental impact that removing these chargers would have, it's good, but it's not as good as I thought it would be. So I think it's kind of like the right move over time, but right now the impact of it, not just the environmental impact of it, but the financial impact of it is, there's a way bigger conversation to be had there. But no bricks this year. Okay, on to the aesthetics of these phones. These phones look really nice to me. We have a Pacific blue iPhone 12 Pro and a red iPhone 12. Now the 12 Pro, the Pacific blue, is this bluish green hue. It's almost like this dark teal color. I know it sounds preferential to the color teal, but it does have a greenish tint to it. It's not just like a pure blue. And this looks so nice. I think this is going to be super popular. The product red iPhone 12 isn't like a deep candy apple red. It's more of a kind of orange tinted red. It's definitely not like the deep red that Apple usually has for their product red devices. I think that this color of red, even though it's not like the traditional product red, is a more lively variant of it. Like I just think this is a more happy looking red than their traditional dark red. Okay, in terms of the back materials, they're very similar to last year's iPhone 11 and 11 Pro. So the 12 Pro has that frosted matte finish to it that tends to hide fingerprints pretty well. And then the 12 has that glossy glass back to it, which tends to show fingerprints a little more readily. Now, in terms of the size and feel of these devices, for one, they both have that flat edge. I'm always someone that's loved flat edge devices, right? Which is why I held onto the iPhone SE, like the original one, for so long, because I just like the small size and I like the way that flat edges hold in your hand, but everyone's gonna be different about that. But it's also a lot smaller. So this is the 11 from last year. This is the current 12. Physically, they're not hugely different in size. Like even if I hold it up and you're not looking it up close, it's hard to actually tell that this is smaller than the 11 from last year. But when you hold it in your hand, the way that it sits in your hand, because it's missing the rounded edges, it's a smaller feeling phone. It's a really nice size to me. The iPhone 12 Pro has the same kind of flat edges, also really nice to hold in your hand, but it is a little bit bigger. It's actually slightly bigger than the iPhone 11 Pro from last year. Again, impossible to tell from this video from here, but it is in your hand, it's perceptibly larger than the iPhone 11 Pro, but it does feel more comfortable. Again, because of the lack of the round edges, your thumb will reach a little bit further than it did before on the 11 Pro. Now, the bezels on these devices are exactly the same. Like the 12 and the 12 Pro have seemingly the same size bezel, at least to my eyes. The 12 has a thinner bezel than the 11 from last year. I think it makes the phone look a lot nicer. Like a lot of people didn't love the thicker bezels on the iPhone 11. This just looks a lot nicer. I gotta be honest, I'm a little bit surprised, right? Because normally when Apple has two products in the same category and there's one expensive one and there's one that's less expensive, usually they do some kind of aesthetic tweak to the less expensive one to make it seem less premium, to make it seem less aesthetically pleasing. But in this case, the 12 still looks really good, even when you compare it directly to the 12 Pro. I think even some people would prefer the look of the 12 just because of the matte finish on the trim and stuff like that. Okay, quick note about the antenna designs. I'm in Canada, and the Canadian iPhone 12s don't have that antenna cut out for the millimeter wave antenna. So we have 5G, but it's just not the super fast millimeter wave 5G. So in Canada, and I think in lots of parts of the world, there is no antenna cutout on the sides. It's just your kind of standard iPhone antenna lines. Now, a quick note about the displays. The iPhone 12 Pro display doesn't look like it's changed that much. It's just a little bit bigger. The iPhone 12, though, has had a huge improvement over the iPhone 11. This display is OLED, right? And that's one of the reasons why they've been able to shrink the whole device. They don't have to deal with an LCD panel. And this change is huge. In my opinion, this is the one feature that I think is the biggest improvement across the whole iPhone lineup this year. Obviously, there's aesthetic changes, but bringing an OLED panel onto the 12, I mean, it makes the design look a lot more up to date, and it makes the product feel much more competitive. Good contrast, nice resolution. It's a very welcome change. The camera systems have also been upgraded, but I'll be covering that stuff in my full reviews of the phone. All right, let's move this conversation onto MagSafe. This is the new magnet-based tech that is featured on the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 12 Pro, and it works like you'd expect through magnets. Okay, let's talk about charging first. The MagSafe charger looks kind of like a big Apple Watch charger, but unlike the Apple Watch charger, this uses USB-C. And to my surprise, the MagSafe charger does not include a charge brick either. Like, it's a charging accessory, so I just thought that they would include it because it's literally for the purpose of charging phones, but you have to have a brick in addition to purchasing the MagSafe charger. Now, this thing uses Qi wireless charging, and I charge a whole bunch of phones on it, like Pixels work on it, Samsung phones work on it, but when you attach it to the back of a iPhone 12 or 12 Pro, the magnets kick in. There's a sweet sound effect that accompanies that connection, but I am concerned about a couple things. First, every time I place my phone onto the MagSafe charger, there's a bit of contact between the metal rim and the back of the phone. And if your phone is encased, then that's not an issue, right? But let's say you have a bareback phone and you're using this MagSafe charger. Every time, like, there's just this ever so slight contact between this aluminum piece and the glass back. And over time, isn't that going to show some form of wear? Isn't metal harder than glass? I don't know. I feel like this is something that only time will tell. Like, if I sat here for days just removing it and replacing it, then we could probably see some kind of wear pattern. But my concern is that this will show wear over time, especially the frosted glass of the 12 Pro. The rubber middle of the charge pad is elevated ever so slightly, but it's still making contact pretty often when I place the phone onto the device. That was like a lot of contact that time. Okay, other MagSafe accessories. There's cases that attach to the phone magnetically, and there's also this nice wallet looking thing. That wallet's supposed to be magnetically shielded so you can place your cards in there securely, but the end goal or end stage of what MagSafe is going to bring to the iPhone ecosystem is yet to be seen. It can't just be this, right? It can't just be a somewhat portable wireless charger. There's going to be way more stuff that comes out, but I think this is the beginning of something from Apple. We'll see how that pans out. Okay, so that's kind of my early look at the iPhone 12 and the 12 Pro. I think, like, just to come back to MagSafe, this, if you're interested in picking this thing up, it's not to be used as like a traditional wireless charger. Like, if you already have a wireless charger, this isn't like an upgraded version of that. This is like a variation of wireless charging is the best way to put it. This, to me, feels like if you're someone who's always wanted to have wireless charging, but you don't like the fact that you can't use your phone while it's being charged, that's what this thing solves. I don't think it's meant to be used just as a really small wireless charger. But that wraps it up. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, let me know in the comments. I'll be covering it in my upcoming review. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. I'll see you guys next time.